I didn't want to talk about this because I didn't want to, like, encourage any sort of dogpiling to somebody that, you know, I've always considered a friend, and I've got lots of thoughts about various aspects of this. But I left it alone because it just seems like, you know, whatever. Froskurinn obviously got, like, dogpiled like few people I've ever seen get dogpiled on the internet because she did that rant, you know, when she was at G4, a rant that they now claim they had no prior knowledge of, which I just don't believe. And ultimately, as I said at the time, and as I've said every time I've been asked about it, and loads of people were going, go on, Richard, go on, get her, join in the dog pile, become one with the Chudosphere, attack Froskurinn. And I've said simply, like, no, because she's done things for me and Maria personally outside of this fucked up combative landscape we create for ourselves that are way more important than, you know, hell, she could even be wrong, and I'm a loyal guy, like, so I'm never coming along for that ride. Here's what I said at the time. The rant she did at G4 essentially amounted to she didn't want women to be sexualized, and she felt some of the criticism she'd got for not being as traditionally attractive to the straight male gaze as previous hosts on G4. She felt that criticism along those lines was ridiculous, unfair. And if you criticized her along those lines, you should just not watch the show. What's the problem? I couldn't believe it blew up because there's this thing which the Chudosphere pushes, and I keep trying to explain to people that just because something rhymes doesn't make it a fact. You wouldn't think you would have to explain this to intelligent people, but you do. This whole go woke, go broke thing is nonsense. It is absolutely not a rule. I've explained this multiple times. You can go, a go-to example you can show people is back when Colin Kaepernick signed for Nike, and everybody said, oh, fuck Kaepernick, you know, he's posturing, you know, he was a terrible QB, and he's, you know, worked his way into being an activist in lieu of being a quarterback, and, you know, all his posing and posturing about taking the knee is all performative nonsense, and I'll never buy Nike again. And people were even buying Nike shoes to burn them. Nice one. And the stocks went down initially. And everyone went, go woke, go broke. Then by the next quarter, stocks were massively up, right? Sales were massively up. Revenue was massively up. The campaign they embarked on, the woke campaign. By the way, guys, stop saying the word woke. It has become as blasé and tired as social justice warrior and all the other parlance and all the other, you know, jargon from back at the start of the culture war in 2015. It's boring now. Find another word. Otherwise, you'll look ridiculous and it'll age terribly. Stay current. Stay relevant. Stay woke. No, just kidding. The reason that these companies decide to entwine certain types of activism with marketing is because it works. They're corporations. They don't care about morals or ethics. They don't care about behavior. They care about profitability, and they employ some of the smartest minds in the world to ensure they can remain profitable by deceiving you into thinking they care about things that they know you care about enough to spend money on. That's the whole game. So go woke, go broke makes no sense. If all these companies are going woke, why aren't they all going broke? Why are many of them, in fact, announcing, you know, record profits? You know, going broke isn't a dog shit fucking TV show made by Disney or Netflix or this new Velma reboot. Those are all going to get cancelled. They are throwaway garbage, and everybody knows it. It doesn't even really cater to the audience it claims to cater to. But on the other issues, them cancelling a show, it doesn't mean Disney goes broke. Disney just make another show. They just roll the dice again. Those are creative endeavors. Some hit, some miss. And the way content creation works these days is, says the guy who's made 22 videos this month, you throw enough shit at a wall and you see what sticks. That's why Netflix, you know, reboots fucking Cowboy Bebop. It's terrible. They cancel it after a season. They've wasted a bunch of money, but they're banking on perhaps 8 of the other 10 shows that they make land and make people want to stay subscribers. No one is going broke. This is nonsense. I see someone in the chat said, oh, BlackRock covers the expenses. Very interesting, yes. But, you know, at the end of the day, It's not a rule. And so I saw a lot of people say that when Froskurinn said, if you don't like it, don't watch. And then went, peace, right? I think she did do it the English way, which is like, fuck you. But anyway, loads of people were like, well, we just won't watch then. And then it was being announced, G4 viewership down, G4 YouTube videos not getting hits, not getting clicks, G4 struggling to stay afloat. And everyone was going, just see, Froskurinn, see, you've gone woke and now you're going broke. And it's like, guys, I don't know how to break this to you. G4 was fucked before Froskurinn ever opened her mouth. Go look at the metrics. Go look at where they were before that rant happened, right? They were absolutely done, dead in the water. They were a bad idea to begin with a terrible, outdated business model. Hey, why don't we have all the super cool energy of live streaming, but we package it like television? Brilliant. Perfect. Why don't we bring in a new generation to work on this, many of whom don't have sizable followings themselves, and somehow try and marry it to the old guard who you're either in love with and have nostalgia for? By the way, I don't think anyone has fucking nostalgia for Sessler, but whatever. And therefore you don't like the new people, or you don't even know the old guard. There's a ton of people that they've never seen G4. That's like some boomer shit now. G4 was always going to fail. I told friends who joined, I said, just know what you're getting into, because that model can't work in this day and age. And many of them took the job because they wanted, it's a big media project on your CV. If you were nostalgic of G4, it's nice to say I worked at something I once loved. But ultimately, G4 was always going to fail. There was already talk before Froskurinn opened her mouth about the plug getting pulled. But she did the rant. And the internet descended, and so they got to say it was all Froskurinn, go woke, go broke. And it just wasn't. It was have a bad idea, go broke, right? Which is an industry standard pretty much anywhere. I was going on the internet, every day, and it was just video after video after video after video after video about Froskurinn. Like, they were all in my recommends. Because I occasionally do engage with the chuddosphere. What do I mean by the chuddosphere? I use that term a lot. The chuddosphere, you know what it is. It's the people who get annoyed over fucking TV shows, and people who are, the fucking hobbits are black in Amazon Lord of the Rings, has wokeness gone too far? That type of people. It's like, while I think there's some truth to the homogenization of American monoculture and how it is infecting, for want of a better word, every piece of art whatsoever. You'll have seen my recent rant on my shorts about how I'm sick of being lectured to by even the entertainment I choose. I also will say, if that's the type of thing that really fucking gets to you and wears you down, you're not really looking at what a sick, sad world we actually live in. There are far more important things to channel that animus into. I watch the videos. There's loads of videos I like of people in the chuddosphere. I think some of them are better than others, but, every day it's like, and I've even been on his stream, so I'll just say it, the Quartering, another video about Froskurinn, and huge fan bases, and I know what kind of harassment that leads to when you're the target of like a popular YouTuber and they're saying you're a woke, avatar and who's going to take away your toys that you love and blah, blah, blah. Because I've been on the inverse of that. I've been called a racist and a bigot. The other side's just as vitriolic in their attack. I totally empathized with it, and I said at the time pretty much what I'm repeating now, that she was being scapegoated, and I didn't even disagree with anything she said, even though it had been packaged in a bad way. And by the way, if you want to just do a little exercise, like just type Froskurinn into YouTube, and just look at how many videos there are. And it's all using the same picture of her. Like, it's insane, how much content there is about her. It's, like, pretty wild. Then the next attack that came Froskurinn's way, when they started making layoffs at G4, and obviously there was around the layoffs at G4, because like we're seeing now, no one's immune to the great market correction. She tweeted, let's play some game show, with this picture, I survived. And everybody acted like outraged about this. Like, what she'd done was so far beyond the pale, so distasteful, so insulting to her colleagues that she deserved to be publicly dogpiled for it. I was thinking about this. The way people talked about this tweet, you would have thought she said, I'm glad those people got fired, glad I'm still making my paper. You would have thought she would have said something way worse than that. But people immediately Even people in the industry, by the way, who are meant to be allies, because that's the terminology they use. It's a word I despise. But even people who are meant to be like her allies said, yeah, that's in really bad taste, because as I'll talk about in a moment, one of the things you will learn when you get drafted into these groups, like the journalist cabal or these other groups on the internet, they don't have any principles. They're never going to the wall for you. Don't ever think that. They'll put you on the pedestal, not because they love you or care about you or respect you. They put you up there because then you're the one people can throw stones at. That's how it works. I've had it done to me. I know exactly how it works. Anyway, this tweet led to exactly the same dog pound. You can see here, if I scroll down, you'll see the same Nerdrotic video being posted. Again, people in the industry debating, has Froskurinn gone too far this time? People, funnily enough, at the Washington Post were even posting, yeah, that's in really bad taste. People lost their jobs. Now, I'm thinking, right, if there was mass layoffs at a company I worked at, and my fans were kind of wondering what was going on, and I did a tweet saying, don't worry, guys, I survived. If you dogpile me for that, you're a piece of shit. Do you know what? I don't think I would get dogpiled for that. I think people would be replying going, whoo, nice one, Rich, thank God. Was worried we weren't going to get more content, was worried we weren't going to get more articles. What's wrong with saying there was a cull and I survived it? I watched that happening and I was like, even some of the industry people are doing that to her. It's a bit fucking weird, a bit mad. So I didn't like that. I've got to say, I don't like to talk too much out of school. I can only assume maybe some of the other personal relationships I have. Because I reached out, I hit her up during this time. And, there's never been any, we haven't talked now in a long time. Even though I reached out, And that's fine. I get it. She might not even have DMs on for all I fucking know. Which also, I wouldn't blame her for not checking them. But put it this way, what happened to her was unquestionably, in my mind, unfair. It was too much. There were valid criticisms to be made. And then, just before we get to this bit, Adam Sessler went on that podcast that Dick and Vito, they had Adam Sessler on that podcast. I believe he said, we didn't know that rant was coming. There's absolutely no way. When it's a show where you have to rant about something, and they're just going to put you on air, are they? And say, what are you going to rant about? No one would do that for me. If every show I've ever done, they go, Richard, do you want to rant about something? Yeah, well, let's clear it first, eh? Because I might say something fucking crazy or whatever, I'm of the opinion that she basically said, bare minimum, my rant will be about this. Because that's what you would do as a courtesy if you're on that kind of show. And also, I can't believe, the editors, the producer, the director. I can't believe all of those people wouldn't know about it either. So she went, she did it. Nobody said anything bad at the time. Not from G4. They all put the rant up on YouTube. It's gone now. There was a tweet. If you can't respect this or whatever it was, then, or something like, Yas Queen. It was one of them. That's gone now. All of her staff stood by her. All of her colleagues that have now hung her out to dry. That's ridiculous. That's fucking... was she right or was she wrong? If she was wrong and she'd gone on this demented rant that you're now saying it is, that nobody saw coming and it hurt the network, should have dealt with it at the time. But you didn't. You stood by her at the time. You said, actually, what she said is good and right. And then you fucking changed and you switched and you memory hold it when you needed a scapegoat. That's repulsive. G4 deserves condemnation, not because they allowed Froskurinn to say what she said, because as I said, I don't think she said anything wrong, but because they pretended to stand with her, and then when they felt a bit of heat from the suits saying we're going to pull the plug, everybody renounced her and denounced her publicly. And by the way, that's not a nice feeling. I'll say this. Frosk has been very candid about some of her experiences she's had in terms of abuse from the community. I was there when she first came through, when she was one of the LPL experts. People like her and Kelsey were coming through the ranks at League of Legends. And remember, Riot Games, she was meant to be hired for an Intel Extreme Masters. I can't remember which one it was. It was an American one. She was meant to be hired for an Intel Extreme Masters, and Riot Games stopped ESL from hiring her to work on their game, saying it's still our product at the end of the day and we still want veto rights. This is after she really worked on herself. She eventually got there, all the while being mad criticised by it was San Jose, thank you. Mad criticised by all of the fans the entire time because she gave forthright opinions and she's a woman. Hate to say it, guys. I know you're like, oh, Richard, you're turning woke now. Yeah, and I'll probably be broke soon then, right? Don't give me your primes anymore. But at the end of the day, like, I've heard it from many executives in esports spaces where, for example, you know, even the woke companies, the people you think are fighting the good fight, they've said shit to me like, yeah, well, she can't work as an analyst because, you know, the player base would have a hard time hearing like analysis from an authoritative female voice. I've heard that. I've been told that. You know, she's been super candid about her experiences. She said it made her very depressed, suicidal at times. She was one of the people who, around Neom, she started talking about all of the problems at Riot and how they've been bullying and underpayment and other weird fuckery going around. And people should have supported her over that. Instead, there seems to be this weird narrative now where, like, she's always been some sort of iconoclastic troublemaker. I'll say this, in the same way that I said the other day when talking about Carlos, cancellation doesn't work because you push people out to the fringe. It's the exact same thing when you take somebody and you push them out to deal with the extremists on the other side, the people who all they care about are your statuses, don't care about you as a person. And like I said, they put you on a pedestal, they put you up there as a figurehead and go, yeah, go girl, woo, yeah, do it for LGBT rights, yeah. And you think you've got support, and you think you've got friends, and you think you've got allies who will jump on the grenades that come your way, who will like lash out at people if they attack you. They're never there, because at the end of the day, by making it about you, it doesn't have to be about them. And so this is what I mean. Now, obviously, Froskurinn is going to be unbelievably pissed off and resentful. Now, she's got reason to be. There was a million ways it could have all been resolved. You know, she burnt some bridges. I'm sure she'd be the first to admit that. She was less than gracious and grateful to certain people who'd helped her. But, you know, I also get it. Being a public figure is miserable. So you feel everyone's against you, even people who historically haven't been. And you just want to retreat to the safe little enclave you fucking made for yourself, wherever that might be. I think she got an unbelievable rough deal from people who should have had her back. 100%. And I think no one is legitimately upset about the rant she had, and no one is legitimately upset about the tweet, I alive. No one's really upset about those things, are they? It was just an opportunity to make content. It was just another opportunity to find someone on the internet that you can dogpile, who is so unpopular that just by virtue of you hating on them, you can have a YouTube video with 300,000 hits on it. That's all it ever was. When I saw this tweet, I was like, this is fair enough. She said, I've been angry for a long time with my peers for not using their power and voice to stand up for others in the industry. Had to come to some hard terms that people who I'd known for years, who I thought were good friends, just weren't. Devastated me for a long time. Been there many times. And, you know, now you realise they just aren't, like, you've got your actual handful. But there's people who I really thought were my friend in this industry that have done, like, horrible things to me. Sold me out in horrible ways, leveraged personal information against me. I mean, you know, I've been in the business 18 years, so I pretty much had someone fuck me over in every single conceivable way. You know, I've been scammed, you know, I've been fucking lied to, had confidences betrayed, like, you name it. It would devastate him. It would devastate. And then, anyway, I'm leaving the industry, found new work elsewhere. This industry is really messed up. Yeah. What happened to me and plenty of others wasn't fair, and it could have been avoided if we'd all stood up together. You let me down, but I get why. Cheers and good luck. And then immediately, just to prove the point, Nerdrotic replies with a video where they had an impersonator come on and pretend to be Froskurinn, while a group of people from the Chudosphere all laughed like jackals. Very cool, I guess. Not that anyone should be above parody or pastiche or criticism, but does seem to me that he was one of the cheerleaders of something I'd wager he took no effort to understand. I bet he doesn't know anything about her esports background. Bet he doesn't know how pioneering she was in her space, how, you know, she was not just a female analyst, but, you know, member of the LGBT, openly in the LGBTQ community on the desk, you know. Probably don't know how she, like, was one of the big voices standing up against Neom, even though it would have hurt her paper. Probably doesn't know any of these things. A lot of people in the Chudosphere, they don't care about esports, you know. They don't care. It's just like window dressing, you know. They know it exists, but you know? So just to balance it out, there was this tweet from another, someone I, again, consider a friend. I've known Trevor a long time. We're not super tight these days. We swim in very different circles, but Trevor's a guy I'd still go to the wall for. Good guy. I remember him back when he was a Call of Duty player. I remember him self-funding a trip from South Africa to come and play at the Antwerp Esports Festival in 2010. I think that was the first time I met him. And we've been in touch ever since. But anyway, it was on the same day she'd done the announcement, obviously, as you can see from the dates. And he said, shower thought for the day, if everywhere you go things are on fire, consider you may be the match. And it's like, okay, there is something in that, although I've always said I hate the Redditor shower wisdom of, if everywhere you go it smells like shit, maybe check your shoes. All right. Here's the reality. If you're a certain type of personality and you go from place to place and things aren't right, and you're the type of motherfucker to say things aren't right, maybe it's just everywhere you go in the industry, things aren't right. Maybe you're a perfectionist and you want things to be right. Like, put it this way, if you're a perfectionist working in esports, you're going to have a fucking hard time because everything is broken and busted. And if you're the person that says, why don't we fix this? You're the pariah every time. Speaking from experience, both as a broadcast talent, as a journalist who's fought tirelessly and fought a million battles and lost the war, guys, sat right here. So at the end of the day, sometimes it's just, everything is on fire. Like, everything's on fire and you're the only person saying shit's on fire, yo. Like, that it doesn't mean you're the cause. But I'll also add, I know there was something fractious that happened in their relationship. I don't know if it was round about the Neon thing or before or after, but I know something happened because I know they were buddies at one point. There's a lot of people in the Riot circle were. It seems to me something happened. She'd made some intimations that he'd done some things. Didn't really elaborate on what those were, but that he'd, been one of the bad people at Riot. And so obviously I get it. I get why he's feeling sour now. But personally, if things had gone very differently, Frosk would have been remembered as like a broadcast great. And, she should be remembered for what she did in esports broadcasting rather than all the stupid, fucked up, man-child driven drama on the way out. Like, that's just the truth. I mean, I'm not saying she didn't make mistakes or I'm not saying she didn't make herself unlikable. There's a psychology where if everyone hates on you anyway, right, you just think, well, fuck it. It's like the Millwall attitude. No one likes us, we don't care. If someone treats you like an animal, you may as well act like an animal. I get the psychological component to it, where people are like, fuck this. It's unfair. No one's listening to me saying how unfair it is. Every time I try and express how unfair it is, people go, why are you whining? Shut up. Yeah. And it's just like, no one will really understand until it happens to you. But when you're the internet villain of the day, and I've been that person probably about 5 or 6 times in my career. When you're that person and everyone comes after you, I mean everyone, even people who aren't like in your circle, aren't even in your industry, and they're coming after you, the press, journalists, celebrities have like seen the supposed dumb thing you said or did and they're coming after you. It's very disconcerting because there's no way out of that. There's nothing you can do. You have to hunker down and ignore it. You have to watch people tear strips off your reputation, potentially your livelihood, smear you with false things, dredge up misrepresented things from your past, and they're all doing it, and they're all doing it in public, and it's all being amplified, and you have to sit there and not say anything. Because if you say anything, you lose. You lose bigger. You lose more. It's awful. I get it. I think it's one of the most overblown, stupid dramas. And like lunatics like Adam Sessler being fucking platformed, they're allowed to tell their side of what went down and no doubt portray themselves as put upon good guys as they sell a supposed ally down the fucking river. Like, does anyone believe for a second that Adam Sessler wasn't like gassing her up? Have you seen what his average tweets are? He's an industry veteran games journalist who decided round about goober grape time he was going to go all in with the fucking journalist set and fucking say gamers are evil, gamers are losers, gamers are... It's like, mate, do you play video games or not? Like, what the fuck's your, he's a fucking clown. And yet he's clearly not insane. He was capable of coming across as, like, not likable. I mean, he's got a way to go to achieve that, but, like, he came across as, like, reasonable in that podcast. And it's like, yeah, obviously he sees it as an opportunity to fucking just pin it on somebody else, buy himself a bit more, reputation or whatever. So, yeah, she's got every reason to feel put upon, for sure. I'd feel the exact same way.